Hello and welcome to When Grooms Get Engaged, the podcast about a guy's perspective on wedding planning from two guys that just found their own. I'm Steve.
And I'm Chris, and each week we'll talk about how we navigated a different part of the wedding planning journey, what we learned in the process, and what we wish we had done differently. So we're doing something a little different this week, Steve. What are we doing?
Chris, this week we are answering Reddit's most talked about questions. I'm on the Reddit forums, kind of seeing what people talk about in their wedding planning. So I figured, why don't we kind of stab at these? These are
Cool.
situations that you will find yourself getting into as you go through the wedding planning journey. Everything that you're going through, someone has gone through a million times before.
Yep.
And I think it'd be fun to give our opinions on this. So,
Cool.
Chris, I have read all of these.
Okay.
I don't believe you have.
Nope. I'm going in fresh. Have not seen these yet.
Okay, perfect. Let's take your opinion on these one at a time. First one, Chris. Dance floor props, yay or nay? This Redditor asks, I'm thinking of doing the sunglasses trend and then also maybe getting some foam light up sticks for the dance floor. But honestly, I feel like they're just so wasteful. I'm trying to avoid buying one-time use things, and so I feel like I'll eventually feel guilty for buying these things, unsure of what to do here. So Chris, where do you stand on dance floor props?
All right. So a little backstory is that we are also very much mindful of single-use things, and we also like to try to avoid that as much as possible. However, they're just so much fun. And I think what also helps is that they're great for if you have a photo booth, you can use some of the similar props. And then two, they just look great in photos. And like some of our favorite photos of the day is everyone with the foam sticks and just dancing, having a good time. Helps people cut loose. It gives them something to do with their hands too if they don't feel like they're good dancers or something like that. So I just think very, very pro props. It might seem cheesy to you, but people have so much fun with it. And again, I regret we had the idea of having bubble guns on the dance floor. That would be really cool in photos. Unfortunately, our venue said no, just because the floor then gets really sticky and slippery. But again, initial reaction, very pro.
I 100% agree. I think the framing of this question is like when you start going into what's wasteful and what's not, like there's so many things about a wedding planning that's just wasteful. You can honestly dice it a million different ways.
Yep.
These are things that just add a little levity and fun, and everyone loves them. I have never met one dance floor prop that someone has been like, oh, I hated this was here. Huge.
Why'd you have glow sticks?
Yeah, it ruined my day. You had glow sticks at your wedding. No one's going to say that. Chris, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree on this. Yeah.
And the other part too is like if you have kids or have a lot of kids as part of the wedding celebration, they're gonna love it too. And so that also helps with that part. So if you have like kids there, they're gonna have so much fun with that sort of thing. I remember a couple kids using the foam light up sticks like lightsabers and just having so much fun, and it was just so cool to see them just like having a good time. So very pro.
All right, Chris. Next question. Wedding trends that you think will change or be gone in the next 5 to 10 years. So, this bride asks, just for fun, what are some current wedding trends that you think will either change or disappear in the near future? My prediction is that bridal parties will change. This year in particular, I've heard of more brides either not having a bridal party or having a smaller bridal party that sits during the ceremony and is more of an honorary role than an involved portion of the wedding.
So interesting. Off the cuff, just because we did not want it, was the garter ceremony and, that whole situation. Kind of creepy, kind of weird doing that in front of family. So I think I haven't really seen that done at all recently. My thought process too would go towards people having a more relaxed wedding. I think there will always be something about having, at the end of the day, a wedding's just a big party, right? And so I could see a trend, not so much of going away, but maybe happening more is having a more informal wedding party, either having it outside and not having all the pomp and circumstance and just having a more relaxed wedding celebration, I think might become more of a trend and kind of steering away from having your wedding at a hotel.
Yeah, I think you're actually right about that. I think as prices just start to skyrocket as well, people will look for alternatives, and that will be maybe more casual weddings or more chill weddings. I think what this poster said about bridal parties is also true.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's our age, Chris,
Yeah,
and you're just younger, you have more friends, so if you want 30 people up there. But I do not see bridal parties the size that they used to be.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it wasn't unreasonable to see 7, 8 people on each side. Now, 3, 4, something more contained.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4 is probably much more average now, where I was looking at photos from my brother's wedding, and I think it was like 8 or 9 on
Yeah,
either
exactly.
side. And that was 15 years ago. So yeah, I think that is absolutely, this like smaller bridal parties is absolutely a trend and probably here to stay.
The first thing I actually thought about this is it's not even a trend yet. It kind of is in Europe a little bit. I don't know if you've seen this. Um, People are doing smoke on the dance floor so that it almost looks like the bride and groom are like landing in the clouds or something. I think it looks so tacky and cheesy. And it's kind of biggish in Europe, but no, I think it'll be gone in the next couple of years. I don't
We
like the
we
way it
thought
looks.
about doing that and
Well,
axed it at the last minute. So I think it can look pretty cool on photos, but yeah, you have to determine like what's worth it for 2 photos or like 30
yeah,
seconds of magic, you know? So it's up to you. But yeah, I could see that.
yeah. Okay, Chris, let's go over some harder hitting ones.
Okay.
Guests granting themselves a +1 on RSVP card. This bride says, "We went with the old school RSVP method, provided cards, envelopes, return stamps, and have received multiple, all capitalized, back where guests who did not receive a +1 seem to have just granted themselves a +1 by writing in the name of their guests and added a digit to the number attending. Obviously venting here, because this seems so rude and I would never, but also curious how you'd handle it. We were pretty strict about our +1 criteria to make sure the guest count didn't get out of hand. These are people that we didn't even know were dating someone. We gave +1s to our friends in long-term relationships / those who ones we personally know."
That is tough. So first I would say you might be able to avoid an awkward situation. Potentially, if you got your count, see how many people said yes and no. And if, suddenly you had, I don't know, 10 people less than you initially thought, you might be able to get away with it and let them add it, even though it might frustrate you or bug you that they did this. But you're ending up at the same count or still under, right? So you could potentially just like let them have it. But I feel strongly about this because I think we were in a similar boat. Like our venue was only a certain size. And even though they said like, hey, you can host, 140, 150, we're like, this space is going to be very crowded if we're at that level. And we need to make sure that we're making, we want to keep it to like 120 because then that feels much more comfortable in the space. And so I would reach out to them and just break the news and say, unfortunately, we're not able to grant you the +1. We hope you still come. We still love you, but we're not able to have that person. So it might be a bit of an awkward situation. It might be an awkward conversation, but they shouldn't be granting themselves a +1.
Chris, you actually, when I read this, I was furious for this person. I was so pissed off of these assholes. There's so many assumptions. But as you were talking about it, you actually made a very good point. If you're finding that your count is under the count you gave that you're going to pay for anyway, this may have just saved a problem that you didn't know you were making for yourself. So, yeah, maybe instead of the first reaction being pissed out of your mind, like I would be, like take a step back, see what your account is looking like. Maybe you do actually have room for these people. Assuming you don't, though, you got to tell them, be like, "Hey, I saw you returned your card with whatever. Unfortunately, we don't have space for this person. We're sticking to a very strict guest count. If that changes your ability to come, we fully understand. Appreciate you keeping us in your thoughts. Yada yada, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. But you're gonna have to. You can't just let this fly because it's gonna balloon your guest count. It's gonna balloon your expenses, and it's going to potentially ruin your day because in the back of your mind, you're going to be like, I don't know, this person, I don't know, this person, they just came to my wedding, they're crashing my wedding. Like, you're going to know. So you're going to have to just let them know and be like, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, and also think about the relationship, right? Is it a friend from potentially high school or college that you haven't really seen very much? You're gonna have that conversation. But if it's like a very close family member, you might allow them that exception. So yeah, it would bug me very much with this situation, especially if like multiple people did it. If like one person did it, you're like, okay, whatever. But if multiple people are doing it, you're gonna have a talk.
Yeah. Okay,
And
Chris.
then, sorry, and we mentioned it, but like it also might prevent that person from then actually showing up to your wedding. So try not to take too much offense if they have to decline at that point. It's just sometimes that's the way it is.
Yeah. And I feel like there's good ways to do this and shitty ways to do this. If you're doing this, just adding a +1 to an RCP card that obviously doesn't happen, that's the shitty way. If this person instead is like, hey, I got my RSVP, I noticed I didn't have a +1. By the way, I'm dating the love of my life for the last, 4 months. You haven't met him or her yet. I'm really hoping I can bring him. Like that is totally cool, totally understandable. I can get behind, but just like adding a person, I don't know who this person is. No,
Yeah, a little strange, a little weird.
that's so bad. Okay, Chris, let's do another one. Is a 2-year engagement normal? So this bride asks, I, 27 female, and my fiance, 29 male, have been engaged since November 2024. We didn't start planning right away and now just booked our venue for March of 2027. The reason we decided to book later is so that we could pay for things slowly over time and not put things on credit. We don't really feel in a rush to get married since we've already lived together for 2 years and have a dog and cat together. We'll both have been working extra to save money for the wedding, so it would be possible to have the wedding sooner, just more stressful. I know the wedding should just be about what we want, but everyone I've talked to has been surprised and questioned why we want to wait so long. So I'm looking for opinions from outsiders. Is it weird to have a 2-year engagement? By the time we get married, it will actually be about 2.5 years. Thanks for any input.
Interesting. So I love that they've communicated that, and I think it's done with reason. It's done with a purpose, because I think we've talked about in our budget episodes that it's super important to be cognizant of your budget and to not put everything on credit. So I think their reasoning is very solid and very sound. And at the end of the day, it's your wedding, so do what you want to do. And I think that's a very valid reason not to do it, or not to have it right away. I think age probably plays a factor here too. Like if they are on the younger side, it is probably more likely that there's maybe a longer engagement potentially, because you can wait longer. If you're a little bit older, you're probably getting married sooner and having a shorter engagement. But just initial thoughts, I think they're doing it for the right reason, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
I don't think a 2-year engagement is honestly that short at all.
Yeah.
If you just think about, I know we keep talking about like give yourself maybe a year to just plan your wedding. Okay, you're adding a year to save. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. I think they're 100% okay with it. And like, we're potentially coming out of COVID. Maybe we're getting into another recession. Who the hell knows? Maybe you're cautious. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. You're not just a 2-year longer engagement because you're just kind of on the fence. It seems like they're both on the same page. Seems like they both know what they're doing. Like, I think is totally okay. I think people need to stop second guessing their choices because someone else has an opinion. Essentially, that's what's going on here. Like someone probably said to this girl, "I can't believe you're waiting this long," and she spiraled. But like, I think there's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah, and also they've now booked the venue and they've made progress in this planning process. If it was just like this has been 2 years and nothing has happened, neither one of them is planning or only one person is interested in it, that would be kind of a red flag. But it seems like they're doing it for the right reasons, and so it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You're doing it right.
Okay, Chris, we have one last one.
All right.
So I'm to be a groomsman, and girlfriend who I live with has not been invited to the wedding. So this guy says, I have been invited as a groomsman at my friend's wedding, but my girlfriend, who I live with, has not received an invite. We will have been together 2 years at the date of this wedding and have currently lived together for 8 months. The bride-to-be was incredibly rude to my girlfriend the first time they met, describing her as the one you are currently sleeping with, amongst other unsavory comments. Yeah, this bride does not like this girl. She has had an issue with her since this, despite my girlfriend being incredibly pleasant to her anytime they met. My friend, for who I am to be the groomsman for, has said they are tied to the list they made earlier this year. However, at that stage, I had already been going out with my girlfriend. I feel that my relationship has been completely disrespected, and would it be wrong to decline the invite? What should I do?
You're gonna have to pick up that phone and have that conversation. My question was going to be is whether the couple had ever known you as being together, right? Or have known that girlfriend, because that could be a big part of this. If you had just started dating, it's absolutely understandable that they might not have extended the invite to her. But the fact that the bride and groom to be have met her and you've been dating for quite a while, it's going to be a big call, tough call. And I think you're gonna have to pick up the phone to kind of say, I'm honored to be a groomsman. I want to be a part of the wedding, but I want to do it if my girlfriend of 2 years is also invited.
I think this is you don't go at this point. I think realistically, it seems like they're signaling out this girl, which means that they're signaling out your relationship, which is bad luck on you. If you go, it's you telling your girl pretty much like, hey, yeah, we've been together, we live together, but they don't like you, but they're kind of more important than you, so I'm gonna go this wedding. You have fun at home, order some pizza, whatever you're gonna do. I think this is kind of bullshit, especially if it's a groomsman.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, like Chris, I know the take we took is if you're dating someone, and especially if we've met them, they're going to get the +1 no matter
Yep.
what. They're going to be a named invite because
Yep.
at that point you're a pair. You're not one person. And it seems like just this girl is not getting the invite. I think that's kind of bullshit. That's kind of dirty, especially for one of your groomsmen. That's a little.
That's the
low.
other part of it too, right? It's you are also going to be more involved in this wedding, and so you should obviously have the person that you're with there, especially if you've been with them for a while.
Yeah. So Chris, sounds like we're on the same page. Sounds like your Saturday just opened up. Maybe take your girl out on a nice date, like have a good time. But yeah, Chris, I think these are some situations that people will find themselves in, and I think they're important to talk about. So yeah, if you guys like and subscribe. Chris, thanks for hanging out.
See you next time.
Talk to you soon. Yep.
Yep.
Bye.